Live from the Glasgow Electric Plant Board, Glasgow Wants to Know. With your host, Mr. Uhel Barrickman.
Tonight we have as our guests the Mayor, Charlie Honeycutt, and the County Judge Executive, David Dickerson. There are many subjects that we can discuss tonight, gentlemen, and probably will within an hour, but I think we'll start with you, Mayor, and ask you if the legislature, which is now in session, and some of us are hoping it soon ends, but be that as it may, are there problems up there or bills up there that are giving you budgetary concerns?
Well, there have been some already passed that will give us budgetary concerns. Of course, the prevailing wage law will mean that any project over $250,000 total cost will have to have a prevailing wage applied to it, similar to the Davis-Bacon Act, where you use any federal funds. And this means that union scale wages will have to be bid on the project. So it will raise the cost of any project that we build, or that any school bills, or the county bills, any local government bills. That's a law that concerns us. There was one that has failed that concerned us very much, was unionizing of police and fire departments, and it came to a tie vote on the Senate floor, which means it died, 14-14 tie. There's another bill or two, one that has passed the House. It's now in the Senate Judiciary Committee, which would give local governments, counties, and cities the right to have a juvenile curfew. And that, we feel, is a positive step in controlling juvenile problems that are prevalent throughout the state and throughout the nation. And this would give governments means to cope with some of these problems by dealing directly with the juvenile and not having to work just through the parent. Now that's one that we're hoping will pass. Of course, we passed it through the House twice before, and it never passed the Senate. So we're hoping that might pass. There's another law up there that local governments have put in, and it's a board of review law that would take some of the load off of district courts. So if, say, a city ordinance was violated, right now it has to go to district court. The district court dockets are so filled in most of the state that they often put local ordinances to the back of their calendar and hardly ever get up to be heard. So this would make a board of review possible to just enforce local ordinances. And that's one that we think might pass. It's passed, I believe, the House and is now in the Senate. And we think that might pass. There are some others that would affect other localities more than would us. There's one up there on alcoholic beverages. Doesn't affect us because we don't have any alcoholic beverages, but it would be important to other parts of the state in case they had a violation of an alcoholic beverage law. Now it has to go to the Franklin Circuit Court in Frankfort. You have to go to Frankfort all the way up there to have the thing solved. And we have a law up there now trying to say that if a violation occurs in Bowling Green, then it can be tried in the Bowling Green court and not have to wait a year to get it on the docket in the Franklin Circuit Court. So that's one we think would be helpful.
There are several other laws already in existence like that one, where you have to go to Frankfort for a hearing on a matter that should be within the venue and the jurisdiction of local courts. So I hope that bill passes, and I hope as a result of that passing, if it does, the legislature the next session will change some of these others. Judge, some of the things that he has already mentioned, I know is going to affect the county, particularly the wage bill. And he also mentioned the bill concerning juveniles. And of course that gets back to a juvenile detention center here. And I would imagine the prevailing wage bill would have a drastic effect on that. So I'd like your comments about all three of those subjects.
Well, we do have a grave concern about the Prevailing Wage Act that was passed. If we proceed with the plans that are presently being considered to construct a juvenile detention center in Barren County, then that center would be constructed at a cost of over $250,000. So the prevailing wage law would come into effect here in Barren County, and her citizens would be required to pay a prevailing wage that I believe is set by the Secretary of Labor, a member of the Governor's Cabinet. That wage can, in some cases, I believe, raise the cost of a project as much as 40%, depending upon the intensity of the labor that's involved. If we were in a capital intensive construction project, of course, then that percentage would be lower. But I think the low end of it, somewhere around 20 to 25% increase that we can expect. And in the case of a million or $1.25 million project, we'd be looking at as much as a $250,000 increase in cost for the construction of a center, and that could make the project cost prohibitive for Barren County. That's something that's already passed that we can't do anything about. I'm certain if the governor has not already signed that bill that he plans to sign it. In a visit that I had to Frankfort this past week, the comment was made to me by a member of the General Assembly that big labor, if you'll allow me to use the term, big labor's having a field day up there right now. They're getting anything that they want, and that's just one of the circumstances. That's just one of the harvest that we're going to reap from the present climate in Frankfort. It appears that big labor has business on the run at the present time, and that's unfortunate, because we have always taken a stance in this community in particular that individuals have every right to belong to any labor union that they want to, but no one should be compelled to. And it seems that we're going away from freedom there and going into a protectionist atmosphere. In fact, I think protectionism was a term used by John Hyatt, who I believe is the general counsel of the AFL-CIO, into a protectionist atmosphere where we want to protect these jobs at any cost to the taxpayers or to the citizens of our state, and that's unfortunate. One of the other things that's of particular interest to the county, or a couple of the bills that are of particular interest to the county, are two relating to juvenile detention specifically, and to the operation of county jails in general. The juvenile bill that's being considered is one that, at least from Barren County's perspective, we'd like to see pass. I think Representative Gray and Representative Hogenkamp from Western Kentucky are co-sponsors of the bill that would change the particular definition of sight and sound separation so that the housing of juveniles inside an adult facility would not violate sight and sound separation if the contact was casual and not day-to-day contact in the same room. So in effect, we could make a 6 or 8 bed addition to Barren County's present correctional center under this particular law, house juveniles in that center at much lower cost than the construction of a new facility, and this is a bill we'd like to see passed. The bill has a fair chance of passage if it comes to the House floor. The Judge Executives Association has favored that bill, and Mike McGee, our lobbyist, has worked very hard to assure its passage. So if that were to take place, it'd be a tremendous advantage to us in Barren County, because we already have a couple of walls built. In that case, we could add a couple more walls and could take care of the juveniles for our community, or even for our judicial district, including Metcalfe County, at probably the lowest cost to the taxpayers. So we hope that takes place. That could even conceivably be done for less than $250,000. So that's a bill we really want to see pass. The other is House Bill 237, once again sponsored by Representative Gray, which changes a number of standards with regard to the operation of county jails. It really won't affect Barren County because we do have a modern and very up-to-date facility that Jailer Scott does an excellent job in administering. So this would help our neighboring counties a little bit in that it relaxes the standards to the point that the fiscal court can make the decision whether or not to close their jail based upon a decision by the court on housing state prisoners versus local prisoners. For example, if Metcalfe County wanted to house only local prisoners, then they could reopen their jail. And any violation of a state statute that was a Metcalfe County resident, then they could house that particular prisoner and house them in their own facility rather than bring them to us. It would cost us a little revenue, but one has to look at the total picture in these bills. At some point in time, we might not be able to meet the standards and would want to stop housing state prisoners, and in that event, that bill would be of assistance to us. So there are a couple of bills pending that return the major control of our facilities to the local government, and I think anytime local government has an opportunity to maintain or to increase its control of its own facilities, then the local taxpayers receive the benefits.
The bill that you mentioned, changing the standards for juvenile jails that would help Barren County, is that still in committee in the House, or has it gotten out of committee?
We were in Frankfurt last week, and that bill was still in committee, but there was a good chance that it would be reported to the floor, and I haven't received an update yet well, I don't think the General Assembly met today. They'll be meeting tomorrow, so I should have some more information at a later time.
Time is running short to get anything through that session.
And that's another thing that concerns me a little about this session. It appears that there have been very few bills passed, very little accomplished in this session. I think that relates directly back to the redistricting that just took place and all the problems that the General Assembly faced with their own boundary lines. And a number of the representatives and senators have districts that are new to them, and I think there's maybe a little fear on their part that they may do something to displease these new constituencies that they have, and so there's a little reluctance to take much action on some legislation, and that's good from the standpoint that you don't want them to consider bad bills, but when we have good bills, it also means they're probably not going to do anything much about those. So I don't know. It's difficult to balance it, I guess.
I think you're being kind to all parties.
I'll always try to be, Mr. Barrickman.
I think you've been kind to all parties as far as that's concerned. How's the landfill going?
It's going real well, Mr. Barrickman. We just received permission for a vertical expansion we've been trying to get approved for quite some time, which means that the 10-acre contained landfill that we have with all the liners and test wells and drain systems and so forth that's been installed, means we can go 30 feet taller with what we already have, which will add another 1.5 year life expectancy to that facility. We have another 3-acre cell that's just being completed that has not passed inspection yet. The state government has to come down and do all sorts of tests, but in essence it's complete, and that 3-acre cell would add another year, maybe 1 year and 6 months to that facility's life too. We are entertaining or looking at building another 4-acre cell contained landfill, probably starting next fiscal year. Another 4-acre cell would last about 2 years.
I presume from what you're saying that the expectations of meeting the financial needs are on course.
Yes, sir, they are at this particular time. The vertical expansion helps a lot there because it gives us 1.5 years more life without any more expense. So that helps a lot, and when you add that to the 4-acre cell that we're thinking about building, of course that would help that too. The project right now that we have completed and everything's passed except that one 3-acre cell hadn't been passed for inspection yet. We will have that paid for in 1997. So at that time we would probably start the 4-acre site, and we would still have about 3-4 years left at that time when we started, and that would pay off in about 3 years. So any way you do it, it's going to work out to where it's paying for itself. Right now we have about $1.5 million that's in a reserve fund that has to be used when it's all filled to cap and then inspect for 30 years.
How many governmental units are using it?
We're taking all the solid waste from Glasgow and Barren County Allen County, Metcalfe County, Hart County, a little bit from North Warren, and a little from Edmonson County.
Now and then, Judge, there are complaints, and I'm sure you are hearing complaints about motorhomes. You got any comments?
Well, Mr. Barrickman, I do. In fact, I have probably over the last 3 or 4 weeks received an average of at least three calls a week regarding the proliferation of mobile homes in and around Barren County. Citizens who build a home are concerned that property values might be affected, and so I think that's the source of the calls. Generally, though, there is a legitimate place for mobile homes and for mobile home living in any community. I know when I was a child, my aunt and uncle lived in Louisville in a mobile home park on Strawberry Lane off Crittenden Drive, and there is a sense of community and an opportunity for community interaction in mobile home parks. Our City County Planning Commission proposed, and the Barren County Fiscal Court, along with the legislative bodies or the councils of the 4 incorporated cities in Barren County, enacted a City County Planning Commission subdivision regulation some 6 years ago. That regulation specifically says, and I'll quote, "Mobile homes shall be permitted only in mobile home parks." And then there is a very specific definition of a mobile home park that requires certain septic and sewage hookups, certain regulations that would be abided by the developer of that mobile home park. And so there is in Barren County a specific place for those citizens who prefer mobile home living. That's not a problem. But there's also a restriction that's on the books at the present time to the random placing of mobile homes throughout the community. The complaints that I've received are from citizens who have built homes or have bought homes who now find themselves in close proximity to not mobile home parks under the definition of the City County Planning Commission, but just random placing of mobile homes along county roads, and their concern involves certain septic problems that may or may not exist. Their concern involves the effect to the value of their properties. And so they're very valid concerns. I think the City County Planning Commission has had these concerns addressed to them. It's my intention over the next few days to consult with the Barren County Attorney regarding the language of the ordinance that's in place, and to take whatever steps are necessary to see that that ordinance is enforced, so that those citizens who wish to live in a mobile home have the opportunity to do so under the regulations that were passed some 6 years ago, and likewise those citizens who prefer to have a more permanent type housing would have their property values maintained through this step that government took, I think, in 1990.
Now, as I understand it, this ordinance applies both to the city and the county, as well as surrounding governmental units. Now, does the ordinance itself provide who enforces it and the means of enforcing it, or is that the responsibility of the administration of each governmental unit?
Well, the particular ordinance vests the authority for enforcement in the City County Planning Commission, the Joint City County Planning Commission, which is composed of citizen members appointed by the County Judge Executive and the mayors of the 4 incorporated cities. I think there are 13 members on the commission, and the representation is proportional. I believe the County Judge Executive appoints 5 members who then are considered for approval by the Fiscal Court. The Mayor of Glasgow appoints 4. The Mayor of Cave City 2, and the mayors of Hiceville and Park City appoint 1 member each for a total of 13. So the enforcement is vested in the administrators of that particular ordinance under an interlocal agreement that is likewise that was passed prior to the subdivision regulations. So, but there seems to be a conflict there in that the statutes state that ordinances in the county are to be enforced by the County Judge Executive. That's the question that I'm going to ask of the County Attorney and of the Attorney General. And if indeed the Commission is to enforce these regulations, then I'm going to ask Fiscal Court to consider a resolution encouraging them to enforce their own regulation. If the responsibility is mine, then it's my intention to see that the regulation is enforced.
You have a good question there, good legal question.
I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes I'm asked, how do you get a sidewalk on your city street? And of course what has brought that about is there have been many sidewalks built within the last 2 years within the city. What's the answer, Mayor?
Well, it depends on a lot of things. One is the amount of traffic on that street. One has to do with the planning of the street committee of the council, who works to try to figure out the growth patterns of the city, where the heaviest traffic is going to be, where the most foot traffic and the most vehicular traffic will be. And those areas are put on a priority to get the first sidewalks. Of course, some areas of the city have had sidewalks for many years, and some have never had sidewalks. They're expensive to build. We build many sidewalks every year, but as to when any certain area would be built, that's a study that's ongoing every year.
Well, it used to be, and I don't know whether the law is still on the books or not, but I presume that it is, that you can assess property owners for the building of sidewalks.
I don't know if it's on the books or not. We don't do it anymore.
I know, I understand that, but that's the way the sidewalks used to be built.
That's correct.
And I didn't know whether that was still on the books or not. I haven't had an occasion to look it up.
I don't know either. I can remember my father complaining many years ago about having to pay for sidewalks being built on West Washington Street. So I know it was on the books, but we don't do that anymore, and I doubt that it's still on the books, because state legislature back some years ago went through and repealed a lot of state laws, and at the same time ruled some city ordinances to be invalid, and a lot of city ordinances were taken off the roll book. So I would not know whether that's still on there or not, but I do know we don't practice it anymore.
That raises a right interesting similarity between city government and county government regarding the construction of sidewalks, or in the case of a county, regarding the maintenance of roads. There is still on the books a statute that allows a subdivision to set up what is basically its own taxing district for the maintenance of the streets and roads through that subdivision. So the residents of the subdivision, if they so choose, can establish a subdivision road district, assess themselves an additional property tax to that the county assesses, and maintain their own road in any way that they see fit without any intrusion on the part of the government if they choose to do so. I think the limit's 10 cents per $100 value on a subdivision road, but it's a right interesting little section of the statutes that allows residents in some cases to take the maintenance of their property into their own hands. And in fact, one group of citizens received advice from the county attorney. They didn't want their road adopted into the county road system, but they didn't have a way to maintain it, so Mr. Rogers advised them that they might look at this particular section of the statute, enact their own subdivision taxing district, and then assess themselves, take the money, and maintain the roads. That's right interesting.
Did it happen?
It hasn't happened yet. Citizens are also reluctant to vote additional taxes onto themselves.
I know.
Well, didn't I see in the paper recently a bill that had been introduced in the legislature limiting these, limiting the creation of districts which could impose their own taxes?
I think that's under consideration. This one, though, is not. It's not in the section on special districts. It's into Chapter 178 or 179, which relates specifically to county roads. So it may be one, if they want to change it, they're going to have to do a little extra looking to change that particular section as it relates to the roads through a subdivision.
Now, while we have you talking, what about the property that was acquired by the county, the old dime stores and so forth on the north side of the square?
Well, we have, the fiscal court and I, in discussions about 8 weeks ago, considered and passed an order to receive proposals from any entity who would care to purchase that particular property. We're going to receive those proposals this Wednesday during our court meeting on the 20th of the month. We'll consider those particular proposals, and generally what we're going to do is take that property and privatize it. None of us had any idea that there was going to be a prevailing wage law passed and signed in this session before we did that, so we were not prescient. We had no advance warning of that, but in retrospect it was exactly the step that needed to be taken. So we hope to receive some very good proposals regarding the purchase of that building from the county, with the requirement that the successful purchaser would renovate the building in general conformity with the rest of the square. If that happens, and if the court does indeed sell that property, then we expect sometime within the next few weeks to advertise for additional office space or floor space for the accommodation of certain county government offices, primarily the fiscal court, judge executive's office, and all the functions related to that. We would anticipate that the PVA's office would be moved from the present courthouse into this leased space, and we likewise would anticipate that the county extension office would be moved from the courthouse into this leased space, and then that would allow the county to perform certain renovations to the courthouse to accommodate anything related to the court functions or to judicial functions. We would leave the sheriff's office there because the sheriff serves as bailiff of the court. We would leave the county clerk's office there for two reasons. One, the documentation that's in the clerk's office in many instances provides the basis for the work that you do, Mr. Barrickman, and for the work that every other attorney in the community does. Secondly, though, in the center of that square, that's as secure a building as we can have regarding any fire problems that might arise, and we've had the tragedy of some fires on the square within the past few months. I know my family was directly affected by one, and next door to City Hall there was a little smoke, I think, that came into the City Hall. So the clerk, who has all these records, including a good number of historic records, needs that security of being placed in the middle of that square, and we think we'll leave Mr. Hodges and his staff there. Then we would also leave the circuit court clerk's offices and district court clerk's offices, both of whom are under the direction and supervision of Nancy Botts. In the courthouse, we'd probably put both those offices on the fourth floor of the building, and then we would have the opportunity at that time to expand the courtroom that Judge Rock presently uses to accommodate, as the mayor referred earlier, to accommodate one of the busiest dockets in the state of Kentucky. I think Barren District Court is the second, third, or fourth busiest court in the state. I'm not sure of the exact ranking, but we're very near a level that will require us to have at some point in the very near future an additional district court, I think. I had a conversation with Harry Hoffman with the AOC, who's the facilities manager. He indicated that Barren County at some time in the next decade would, he believed, require a second district court. So we believe by moving those functions across the street that we'd be able to renovate the present facility, the present courthouse, to better accommodate the judicial functions and some few county functions in a much more efficient way than we're doing at the present time.
Well, in essence, you are inviting somebody else to build a building which the county can rent to alleviate their problems as far as crowding and the need for additional office space.
Yes, sir. I think that's I believe, and as you know, I came to government from private business, and I believe that in most cases, not all, but in most cases, private enterprise can perform certain functions more efficiently than government. I think the ownership and maintenance of real estate is one of those. I think that we can take a page from the book of the U.S. Postal Service, and this is not my idea. It was one that I guess from the post office's plan to lease space for a new postal facility of some sort in Barren County was the germination of this idea. And I think it's appropriate. I think that the county can lease the space, and had a long conversation with your friend and mine, Howard Jones, about it before his recent illness, wherein he looked at some numbers and I looked at some numbers, and he and I both came to the conclusion that yes, indeed, this is the way to do it, because private enterprise is not constrained by the requirement to do certain bids and the requirement to do this and to jump through hoops that government is required to do. So in the interest of time and in the interest of efficiency of the use of resources, we think that this is the appropriate step to take. The fiscal court agreed, and hopefully we'll receive some good proposals this week for the purchase of that building, and then at a later time we'll receive some proposals from whomever. We cannot say we want to lease this building back from you. If they offer it, then certainly we'd consider it. But when we advertise for space, that opens the field for anyone within a 2-block radius of the present courthouse to provide office space for the 3 offices that I mentioned earlier. And that particular advertisement that will come along in the next few months eliminates no one. Everyone will have an opportunity to buy any piece of property within that 2-block area of the square and quote to the fiscal court sufficient floor space to meet the needs of the offices that might be affected. So we think it's a win-win situation. We take a public asset, we put it back on the private rolls. We'll be able to receive property tax revenues from it sufficient to cover part of the expenses of the lease, and then we will likewise not absorb the cost of interest of a bond issue, nor will we have to borrow any money to finance the construction of a project. Private enterprise will do that, and it will amortize over a period of time. Basically, I think it's a handle dollars situation. We could borrow the money and do it and spend 2 years accomplishing what we can do by leasing and accomplishing in 6 to 8 months. So there's a time factor involved. The dollars just about balance out, I think, over the term, over a 20-year term. So we think it's a pretty even trade for the county.
He mentioned the post office, Mayor, and you were and are and have been a driving force in the community, and I commend you for that, to do something about the problems that we are having as a result of crowding at the post office and lack of space. What's the latest on that? I'm sure you're familiar with what the latest is.
Well, the latest is, I guess, a meeting that the judge and an infrastructure committee from the Chamber of Commerce and I had a meeting with postal officials, some pretty high postal officials, and they realize that we have a crowded situation. They realize we have traffic problems. They realize we have a big mail burden, load here, and a lot of dollars that go through here, but they also say that they can't afford to put out the millions of dollars required to build us a new post office as we would like to have. And they have gone further to say that if they did have that much money, they wouldn't spend it in Glasgow, that there are some places that need it worse. They do recognize our problem, and what they want to do, they say, will handle our problem. That is to build a postal store on a lot with enough parking places for 56 cars. We presently have parking for 30 at the present post office. This postal store would have space for, I think, 2,000 lock boxes, mail boxes. Right now we have 1,100 at our present post office. It would have a lot of good facilities there, and hopefully it would help our problem a lot. They would take the lobby of the old post office, convert it into a mail handling line where they would use computer operated equipment to speed up the handling of the mail, hopefully put the routes on the street at least an hour earlier, and speed up delivery of the mail, and maybe fix it so that we would not have to send so much of our mail to Bowling Green before it gets handled properly.
So much. I understand it all goes to Bowling Green.
Not
comes back here. That's what the postmaster told me right here on this program not too long ago.
Well, you may have later information than I do. The last information I had was if it was mailed in the Glasgow slot in the morning, that it could go out that afternoon to Glasgow boxes. But you may be correct on that. I'm not claiming to be an expert.
I think both of you are. I think that at present all the mail goes to Bowling Green, but with this new sorting equipment that the mayor mentioned, we would have the capability at that time to cancel mail in the morning in Glasgow and go into the box that afternoon.
I understood him to say that with new equipment, but he
Yeah.
definitely, because he and I exchanged opinions about certain things, and,
Well,
he definitely said that all mail here within the city and addressed to people in the city had to go to to Bowling Green and come back.
Now that's pretty wasteful, but we agree. I guess what we did was agree not to agree at that meeting. The judge wasn't satisfied. I was not satisfied. I don't think anybody was. But they told us that we could stop this postal store from coming here if we wanted to, and remain as we are. Well, we didn't want to do that. We want some relief, but they also promised that they would revisit our situation in 3 or 4 years to see if this is handling our problem. Give it time to see if it's handling. If it's not, then they would reconsider. Also, the judge is one of those that recommended that when they do put in the postal store, they acquire enough space for a post office nearby in the event that that becomes necessary.
I think that's a wise suggestion. I had seen that there was a probability that we'd have a warehouse or a store here in August, and then the latest thing I saw was November. What's the latest or the earliest figure that have been told you gentlemen?
I don't have an early figure, do you?
The earliest and most optimistic date I think was at sometime in August, but I don't think that time. Yeah, that's some time ago. I think within the calendar year now would be an optimistic.
I've seen since then that they're now saying November.
Yeah,
I think that'd be more realistic. Yeah, but it's a situation where we didn't reach an agreement, and we all, the judge and I and the chairman of the infrastructure committee, chamber officials, wrote a letter to the post office department thanking them for their visit and their offers, and suggesting that they do go ahead with the postal store, but at the same time consider extra additional land to take care of a new post office in the event they find that the postal store is not the problem, it's not the solving of the problem.
What are your plans for the old Richardson hardware property?
Well, the building directly behind the hardware store will be demolished. It'll be removed, and all that area back there, those various parking lots were cut up in about 3 parking lots, all be joined into one parking lot and marked off, and that space where the old storage building was will become parking space. The Richardson hardware building itself, we're considering either leasing or selling on the open market. We do not desire to get in the real estate business, as the judge said. We'd like to move that on and put it back out in the private sector, but we do need that additional parking space, and we think this is a good move for us.
What makes you think that down the road you aren't going to need that space where those buildings are as additional parking space?
Where the hardware store building is?
Yes.
Well, that's possible. I frankly can't see that far down the road, but in the future that could become a need. If it does, I will also call your attention to the fact that when the present parking structure was constructed on the square, one of the things that hurt us was the Davis-Bacon Act, which is another version of the Prevailing Wage Act.
Yeah.
And it added so much to the cost that the top floor was left off. That structure was designed to have another floor of parking spaces on top of it. And it's pretty well used, but not entirely filled now. And sometime in the future, a third floor could be added to that if people downtown will learn to walk a block. Most of them want to park right in front of the place they're going in.
I have a solution to that problem, and I reminded Mr. Barrickman of this sometime at a Rotary meeting, I believe. Get the people to come on this show and have them extract a commitment that they will not park around the courthouse, as he extracted from me in October 1993 during the campaign for Judge Executive, because I recall the specific question was, Judge, do you intend to park around the courthouse if you're elected? And I said, no, Mr. Barrickman, I do not. And so just get them to come on this show. That'll solve the whole parking problem around the courthouse square.
He doesn't mind twisting their arms.
No, he doesn't mind at all.
There have been several stories in the Courier-Journal recently, Judge, about the self-insurance organization of the counties, and some rather, well, I don't know exactly how to phrase this, but apparently they are saying that there are some substantial problems. What do you know about it, and how is it affecting Barren County?
Well, at the present time, Barren County has its workers' compensation coverage and unemployment insurance coverage with CAECO. We're not a part of the All Lines Fund.
CAECO is the
Kentucky Association of Counties.
It is the organization.
We are submitting to the fiscal court for its hopefully for its approval. Specifications on the county's workers' comp insurance. I have advised the fiscal court since I assumed office in January 1994, or very soon after that, that we needed to extricate ourselves from the contracts with CAECO. At that point in time, no private insurance companies were writing workers' comp coverage for public entities. The ambulance service was insured with CAECO, and the mayor and I both sit on the board of the Ambulance Service Corporation, and the ambulance service took the steps necessary to remove itself from a CAECO policy and wrote the coverage with the Kentucky League of Cities, which has much fewer problems and in fact may not have any problems at all with their insurance business. That may be an option for Barren County. As soon as we can, though, I want to remove any contacts between Barren County and CAECO. I'm not comfortable with the arrangement. I have never been comfortable with it. Hopefully we'll be able to find a private insurer that will write our workers' comp coverage, and as soon as we can, I hope the court will agree, and that we can move that coverage from our present carrier to either a private company or to another company, another self-insurance type fund. I'm just not comfortable with the arrangement, Mr. Barrickman. I don't know anything about CAECO and its problems because, quite frankly, it's an organization that I have chosen not to become very involved with. It's not. I don't particularly care for the way it was established. I don't care for the way it operates at all, and that's just. I guess that comes from being a sawmill man from 20 years back. So as soon as we can, we want to reduce the county's involvement and exposure to CAECO, and at that point in time we may remove ourselves from it altogether. At least that's what I anticipate.
Now, since both of you are on the ambulance board, what are the problems there and what's the good aspects?
Well, I think good aspects are that we've settled on a new type of vehicle that we hope is going to be long-lived, that will give us good service, that has proven that way in the city of Louisville and some other large fleets, and we're hoping that that's going to help us control our operating costs, and I think that the ambulance service is healthy. Judge may have other opinions.
Well, it's healthier now than it was.
Yeah.
I won't disagree with the mayor totally on his comments. We have initiated the purchase of a new type ambulance that we think will be more fuel efficient. It'll be more aerodynamically designed. It's still, though, a fairly lightweight chassis that will carry this unit, even though the particular box has been reduced in weight by some 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. It's still a heavy load for what's basically a pickup truck. At some point in time, I think our service is growing and has grown to the point that we can consider a different type unit that is built on a much heavier duty chassis so that we can reduce some maintenance costs. Those are costs that we can control. Having come to government from a business that was involved in trucks and trucking, trucking expense is tremendous in any enterprise that uses those sorts of vehicles. And so one of the things that we always try to do, and I think the ambulance service can do, is to maintain very, very tight controls on its maintenance costs. We have received and have acted on an offer from a local automobile dealer to perform maintenance for the ambulance service at a reduced cost, which I think is an action that was appropriate for us to take. But hopefully we'll be able to even cut these costs even more over the next few months. I'm very pleased with the last deficit statement that we received. The deficit for the quarter ending December 31 was only $32,000, as opposed to deficits approaching $85,000 to $90,000 over the calendar quarters of 1994. The 4 quarters of 1994. So we've taken some very positive steps. Our billing is current for the first time in my memory, at least for the first time since my service as judge executive began. And it's hard to collect money if you don't bill it. So we're billing on time now. We have a substantial amount of money that's due to us, I believe, from Medicaid, because of the problems that exist in Frankfort and in the Department of Human Resources in Frankfort with the administration of the Medicaid fund. So we should receive sufficient Medicaid dollars to pay for this new ambulance unit without assessing the government agencies involved any money to help pay for it. Now, that might not be the case, but the receipts from Medicaid will very nearly approach the cost of this new unit. So financially, we're doing a much better job. We've always done an excellent job technically. There's no question in my mind, nor do I believe there's one in the mayor's, that the level of training that we have and the level of commitment to the service of the public that our employees at the ambulance service have is second to none in the state of Kentucky. We have technically a very well-trained group of people who do a very good and capable job when they're on a call. We have taken some steps as a board to further their training, and we have agreed to reimburse the expenses of paramedic classes for EMTs, which is the lower level of training, to receive a paramedic certificate if they complete their training and receive licensure as a paramedic, which is about a 2-year project. Then the ambulance service board has agreed to reimburse them their dollar costs, not their cost in time, of course, but their dollar costs for raising their level of training to the next level, which is paramedic. We think that that's a good trade-off. We think that's a wise expenditure of taxpayers' money to increase the level of training of emergency responders. So that's a very positive step. It will allow us to have a much higher and better trained group of employees, and we think by and large that's going to improve the service from the technical aspect. Financially, that's up to the board. We think we're doing much better, and we think the employees are doing better.
What's the ratio of meeting the deficits each year among the various governmental organizations? Is it based on population?
It's prorated based on population. Barren County's responsibility is 50.4%. I think the city of Glasgow is 29.8%, and Metcalfe County is 20.8%, total of 100%. There is a desire on my part to see that deficit contribution on the part of the county reduced, thereby reducing the deficit contributions of the other 2 government agencies involved. So hopefully by the end of calendar year 96, if we can reduce that deficit to $150,000 to $200,000 annualized, Barren County's share from $75,000 to $100,000, I think that's a fair price to pay for a service that's as good as ours. That'd be about a 50% reduction in the deficit.
I don't hear any complaints about the service.
No, the service is excellent.
I hear a lot of fine comments about the service, no complaints.
But there's an obligation, I think, on our part as board members to make sure that the financial aspects and financial needs of the service are met to protect the taxpayer's interest in maintaining a good service. Because there comes a point, if the deficit were to continue to rise, there comes a point where citizens may begin to say, well, it's very good, but is it worth $500,000 or $600,000 a year? Maybe the answer to that question is yes. I don't know. But I think we can reduce that deficit, and I think we're all working toward that and doing a very good job in meeting that goal.
I would agree with that.
Mayor, another necessity nowadays, of course, is the airport, and you have really been interested in that. Another grant was made available. Perhaps you should tell the audience and the community a little bit about that.
Well, that's federal dollars, governmental funds that have been appropriated to improve airports across the country. We are anticipating a 4-stage grant improvement program for the airport. We've gotten now 2 of those stages. The first federal dollars came across that we used to buy additional land with and to make some other improvements such as paving of runways, striping, and paving the road, paving taxiways, and installing some additional instrumentation. This last grant, which is almost $1 million grant, will be used to move a barn that happens to be in the way, and will also be used to start the construction, the earth moving part of the construction, and complete the design phase and the engineering of it, and also move some instrumentation that has to be moved. There are some gas lines that have to be moved too. So there are several things that have to be done before the project really gets into full swing, but this phase should see a lot of motion and a lot of movement out there and a lot of improvement. Right now we have a 4,000-foot runway. When the entire project is finished, we'll have a 5,000-foot runway, and the runways will be wider, they'll be thicker, they'll make it safer for all types of aircraft, and especially for the bigger and more speedy aircraft that have to come in at a higher rate of speed when they land. And many of those aircraft now that are commercial or industrial jets have to be redirected to Bowling Green, and then people have to rent automobiles. Factory representatives and officials have to rent automobiles and drive to Glasgow. This is an inconvenience, and it's also kind of a black eye to our city, because nearly all cities our size now have 5,000-foot runways at their airports. And we looked a lot before we were willing to invest this much money on improving that airport, because we have a lot of topography problems out there, the big drop-off. But in looking around the area, that is an ideal site. It's located ideally, and it's hard to find anything better, really. So when we get through, we're going to have a fine airport, and will be a commercial class. It's what it will, commerce class, which means it will be approved for faster, heavier aircraft, and will give our community and our county a step up in economic development and in progress for the future.
I was surprised that your only comment about the barn was moving it. I guess it's well that we just let that alone. How is how has it and how will it affect both the county and the city, the cutback in federal government expenditures and the fact that the new state administration, instead of meeting some of the things that was talked about in the campaign, was postponed for a year, and they retaining last year's budget in essence, or at least that's what they say they're going to do. How's that going to affect the city's and the county's problems insofar as their respective finances are concerned. Mayor?
Well, there are not too many state grants available anymore. There's a fuel tax that there's a state fuel tax that goes to be divided up amongst all the counties and cities that help you build streets, repair streets and sidewalks and so forth. And that will not be affected by any budgetary constraints. I would say one way it might be affected, of course, there's a 6-year highway plan where they outline highways to be built in the next 6 years. The governor and the legislature has indicated they will follow that plan and will build highways that are on there. But I would say if funds run short, once again, there's a federal gasoline tax too that helps supply funds for that. But I would say if the pinch comes, then I wouldn't be surprised to see those funds pinched, and maybe some of the construction projects for highways may be delayed. The big one that would really help us is the I-66 project, which would be a coast-to-coast super highway, which would go right through our county and would bring many dollars, I feel, into this county and this community. That may be put on a back burner. I've heard some congressmen say it's not going to be put on a back burner. I've heard others say it will be. That remains to be seen.
Other than the airport grant that you were talking about a moment ago, and is mostly federal money with a little state added to it, is there any other federal money in the city's budget?
I can't think of any right now.
None even to the police department, or
well, we do have
any funds there?
Yes, we do have one grant, but it's only for the salary of one police officer. And it's called the Cops Fast program that President Clinton initiated. And we applied for funds for 3 policemen and another car. We got the funds for 1 policeman. And that police officer will be used primarily in the areas of public housing where there are several calls for domestic problems. And we are concentrating on that with this program. It has been approved, and we are getting federal funds for just that one salary. But federal dollars have been on the decline for many years in local government, especially when they did away with revenue sharing. I'm sure you recall revenue sharing. That was really the great one that helped everybody. That's no longer available.
The county government, does it have much input of federal funds?
We receive a few federal dollars for the operation of our jail from housing federal prisoners. That money's somewhere under $15,000 annually. Likewise, we receive some federal grants from the Justice Department, or federal money through the Justice Cabinet in Frankfort to help fund our DARE program. But a couple of fiscal court meetings past, the sheriff has informed us that, if I understood him correctly, that he had sufficient money in a confiscated drug money fund of some sort. And I really don't understand it, but the gist of it is that the sheriff has informed us that he has sufficient money available to him for cash that was confiscated during drug arrests to fund his DARE program and all the expenses of it for the next few months, maybe the next couple of years. I hope that's accurate. Because we could possibly lose the funding from the DARE program, for the DARE program, at least the grant funding for the DARE program, if the federal budget is cut to affect the particular money that flows through to the state. Other than those 2 particular items, and we're really not very dependent upon federal dollars in the county. We're much, as the mayor said, we're much more dependent upon the revenue from the gasoline tax through the Rural Municipal Aid Office of the Transportation Cabinet in Frankfort. But that money is specifically earmarked and must be spent in the localities based upon a certain formula. So the money that's not spent goes into a reserve fund for either the county or for the city, and can then be released if certain conditions are met. We have, the fiscal court has passed a resolution in the past few weeks that
About 30 seconds.
ask for that specific allocation of money to us, and hopefully we'll be receiving that money in the next few days.
Let me just mention two other things that I thought about. Our area development funds are no longer in the state budget, and of course we have an area development district, which is a 10-county area that helps with economic development and grant writing and so forth. Those monies are not in the state budget. We hope they might be put back. Also, federal funds for housing improvements in our local housing projects have been cut off, and Section 8 housing that Ms. Olita Hatchett supervises, any growth funds have been cut off for that. So those are two areas that we would probably suffer in the near future.
Gentlemen, I thank each one of you. I think the community likes this, likes having you gentlemen on this program. I get good reports.
Mr.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you for the invitation. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.